Well, today I went back to Bedford because I am still stocking my Etsy shop for the holidays. So I wanted to look at a couple of things that I had seen the last time I was there. I figured if they're still there, they're probably coming home with me. And in fact, one did, but uh, it wasn't the easiest of shopping trips. Today was Black Friday, and you'll be seeing this on Saturday morning, so it was yesterday, and the mall was rather more crowded than usual. And so that made things a little more difficult. And I will explain why when we come back. Bedford requires the use of masks, but I take my mask off when I'm filming so that I don't muffle the sound, and I always make sure there's no one at all in the area when I do this. Today, because it was Black Friday and there were a lot of people there, I didn't have the luxury of removing my mask either when I was filming, when I was using the stairs, and their stairs are a little on the treacherous side, um, or when I was climbing over things to find the stuff I wanted, because some of the booths are a little crowded. So, um, that's shopping on Black Friday anywhere you go. It was just a little more um, strenuous a situation than I had bargained for. Now, very often shopping in antique malls can be a physically strenuous activity. A lot of times the booths are crowded, there are obstacles in the way, things have to be moved to get at what you want. And although I'm sure if I were still 18, that would be remarkably easy for me, gee, it's been a while since I was 18. So that threw a level of difficulty on the shopping that I'm really not accustomed to when shopping at Bedford. So I have to say, probably very, very minor level of inconvenience compared to an ordinary Black Friday shopping trip at a department store, for example. Nevertheless, it did sort of, as I say, it put a level of strenuousness on the whole shopping adventure that I wasn't quite used to. Um, we are going to start off with a couple of dolls, and these are an example of what not to buy. I don't believe we have ever taken a look at this piece or her little friend that I'll be showing you in a moment. This is a bride doll. The doll looks to be about 20 to 24 inches tall, which is a really good size for a doll like this, and it's $85. So let me go and show you her friend. So here's the friend. She is on a lower shelf, so we're sort of seeing her from the top down. I'm going to see if I can get a better shot of her face, her dress. $85 as well, and she's probably about 18 inches tall. So, are they a good buy? Absolutely not. Not at any price. Dolls like this, they just do not have a collector's market. So when you sell them, you are selling them to someone who simply has a personal affinity for this particular doll. Or this one. They will look at it and something about that will resonate. But what you have to keep in mind is when people are buying something simply because they like the looks of it, especially in the field of dolls, they're not paying top dollar. They're paying whatever it is worth to them compared with any of the other pretty little items they see. So, not a good investment at any price. Bride dolls are something you should, in general, avoid. I'm not sure what it is about bride dolls. The manufacturers make tons of them, which must mean they sell, but I do not think they sell to the person who is going to become the owner. I think bride dolls are things that people purchase for little girls. Here's a bride doll for you. And the little girl says, oh, goody, I got a bride doll, and, that's it. But in general, bride dolls are very low on the list of collectors. In even things like the Barbie world, where the antique and the really old outfits, the outfits from the early 1960s, have just an incredibly strong market. You will find that the bridal outfits do not. Those are generally not top sellers among collectors. In fact, they tend to be very near the bottom of the list. So there's a disconnect here somewhere. The manufacturers are making tons of bride dolls. Must mean somebody's buying it. It's not the collectors. Some of these dolls are not designed for small children. The dolls I just showed you were clearly not designed for small children. So who knows what this is all about? I don't have an explanation for it. I can just tell you what the market is. And the collector's market for bride dolls and bridal outfits is not strong. Dolls like the two dolls that I showed you, which are very large dolls, were probably sold as collectible dolls to begin with. Oh, look, here's our special Danbury Mint Collector's Bride doll. They do not hold their value. None of those sort of Danbury Mint type collectibles do hold their value. It's just, it's a marketing gimmick to say they're collectible because, in fact, in general, they're not. But dolls like that, in order to be attractive to a collector, they must be in pristine condition and usually in the box. So if you see this wonderful bride doll somewhere and you think, oh, I bet this is a great deal, no. You will get for it what a willing buyer, who is probably not a collector, because as I say, they don't go over with collectors, is willing to pay based on the aesthetics of the doll and the personal appeal. Just, does someone have a fondness for that particular doll? So in that case, what is a willing buyer willing to pay for a bride doll? Probably a lot less than that same buyer would pay for exactly the same doll if that doll was wearing a nice little silk shantung suit a la Jackie Kennedy with a cute pillbox hat. Then you'd probably see a strong competitive bid on eBay. You would be able to get a good asking price on Etsy. But in general, no. And I have no sense of where the vendor of those dolls got the prices from. Both dolls were priced at $85. The larger doll, maybe $85 isn't an out-of-line price. I wouldn't pay for it. I know the collector market too well. The smaller doll at $85, no. So I'm not sure. And I would have thought that the vendor would have said, well, gee, this doll is 10 inches taller than the other one, so I'm going to charge more. Who knows? But those dolls have been there for a while, and I promise you, they're going to be there for a while longer. So that's my 2 cents worth of what to look for in a doll, or in this case, what not to look for. Bride dolls don't sell. Now, I also saw another doll there. And again, this is an example of what not to buy. So take a look at this one. We've discussed the field of Black Americana as a legitimate field for scholarship and even collecting, although occasionally it's questionable. This is one of those questionable pieces. This doll is old, but not very old. Vintage, certainly not antique. And the reason I would find this doll to be on the questionable side is it's it's a racist depiction. This is something that was not intended to flatter the subject matter. And this is the sort of thing I would just walk away from and probably wash my hands afterward. Yeah, I have serious problems with dolls like that. As I said when I was filming it, Black Americana is a legitimate field of historical, cultural, sociological study. I'm not saying it isn't, and I'm not saying that there is no possible market for this sort of collectible, despite the fact that I'm sure most of us just find it utterly racially offensive, especially, with our 21st century sensibilities. But this particular piece is not old. It's probably vintage. Well, I would say it was certainly vintage, not antique. My best guess is that doll was made somewhere between the 1960s and the 1980s, and there's almost no excuse for that level of racial offense coming out of that era. And in fact, I have a video, Truckware Lamps, that's what it's called. This video was about a year and a half ago, and it was a pair of chalkware lamps. They were Nubian odalisks. I'm going to show you a picture because a year and a half ago, even if you saw the video in the first place, you're not going to remember it. So I'm going to throw in a picture. You see the difference? That lamp was made probably 1940s, 1950s, mid-century piece. The depiction of the African woman, and there are a pair of those lamps, and there's even a little guy to go with them. These were beautiful women they were depicting. There is nothing offensive or stereotypical or caricaturish. Yes, they are clearly African women, no question about that. But they're beautiful. They were created to be beautiful women, and they are. So they could do it. And they had a market for this. Why anybody would consider that Mammy doll is just beyond me. And that's one of those things that even if I thought there was a decent resale market for it, I would walk away because it's simply too offensive to me personally. Now, again, I'm giving you my personal opinion on this, but I I hope I'm not alone in this. I hope I am not the only person who looks at something like this and says, oh, I just, no. Thank you, but no. And that was not the only piece I found that had a sort of negative impact for me. There was another piece that was rather troubling to me, but I bought it all the same. So let's take a look at that piece. Start again. It is with some trepidation that I am taking this set home with me. $4.50. This is a napkin holder, salt and pepper, plastic, really nice Art Deco lines, although this is clearly not an Art Deco piece. So what's the problem? Well, it came from an Indian school in Montana. And unfortunately, Indian schools were part of a systematic effort at destroying the Native American culture. So I'm really uncomfortable with that. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe somebody will be interested in reclaiming this piece. I have to think about this. I'm definitely buying it, but I have to think about whether or not I will be reselling this piece. Well, that is a napkin holder with a set of salt and pepper shakers in it. Now, that set was made post 1965, I'm going to say. I based that on the fact that there was a zip code on the bottom, and zip codes were introduced in the early 60s. And it came from an Indian school in Montana, and that's what it said, like, Montana Indian School. And I have a really serious problem with the whole concept of Indian schools, although objectively speaking, I really shouldn't. So why? Let me start with why I have a problem. It's because they were out to exterminate Native American culture. Children were taken from their tribal unit, their family, their extended family, shoved into schools where they intended, it was their stated goal to assimilate them into American culture. So it's sort of like a cultural ethnocide. I can't get behind that. So why would I say I shouldn't have a problem with that? Well, that is the history of public education in the United States. The first public schools, they were opened in Boston, were sold to the tax-paying public, the people who are going to have to support them, as vehicles for turning little Irish American, German American, Italian American, etc. children into good little WASP children. That was like literally the stated purpose. We are going to turn them from Irish American into good, upstanding, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant children. They never hid that goal. And so our whole public education system is based on the concept of turning children who come from backgrounds that the powers that be didn't find acceptable into adults who behaved the way the powers that be thought they ought to. So if I don't have a problem with public education, oh, by the way, I do have a lot of problems with public education, why would I single out the Indian schools? Because the Indian schools were, in fact, designed to take one group of people and not just kill off their culture, but kill off their race, kill off their native language, and A great many Native American languages have been lost. They're gone. They were here at one time. They are gone now. And young people from these Native American tribes who want to learn their language have to go to universities, and they have to be taught their native language, the language their great-grandparents spoke, by non-native professors of language. It's really kind of sad. So, what can I say? The educational system has some very flawed roots. So why did I buy it? I bought it because I like the piece. Nice Art Deco lines, not from the Art Deco period. This is probably from the 1970s, when the same orange and green that were the super hot kitchen colors in the 1920s and 30s had come back and were the super hot kitchen colors in the 1970s. And because I thought somebody else would see the pieces and appreciate the art of it. But I'm very uncomfortable with this. So what I did, and this is what I'm going to do when I list it in my shop, there was an Indian school here in Carlisle, and I think it was called the Carlisle Indian Industrial School or something like that, where they took Native American children and wanted to not only turn them into, Anglo-Saxon children, but they wanted to teach them a trade. And Jim Thorpe, the world-famous Native American athlete, well, he was a world-famous athlete. The fact that he was Native American was incidental to his athletic ability. He attended the school here in Carlisle. So I went online and I found a number of charities that have been established in Jim Thorpe's name. And I've decided I am going to offer it for sale, but I'm going to funnel the proceeds of the sale through one of those charities. And that will at least make me feel like I am not even second or third hand contributing to, I don't want to even say an educational program, because it wasn't the education that troubles me, but a systematic effort to wipe out a culture. So that's what I've decided to do to deal with this. But by the same token, I think it's a nice piece. I think it will find a home. I just hope it's going to find a home with someone who's going to understand the background of the piece. So there we go. A lot of things you run into in antique stores, because they come from bygone eras, can be somewhat troubling. And that's individual too. As an educator, I am ticked off by education, which is something that should be positive, when it's used in such a negative way. I'm quite certain that nurses will walk into antique shops and look at old medical devices and say, oh my goodness, that is disgusting. That shouldn't even be for sale. I'm sure that everyone has some little thing that ticks them off, and that was mine. So, next up, and this was an interesting buy, this is a set of 2 cups, that's all. And they would have been part of a much larger set. So let's take a look. So here we have 2 chocolate cups. They came from a set, and the 2 cups together are $5. They are unmarked, but pretty clearly Japanese. I'm taking them with me. So you're probably asking yourself, why? Why would I get 2 stray cups like this? They don't even have saucers. Because they're old, they're pretty, They're inexpensive, which means I can sell them for a reasonable price. And because as a set of two, they may well find a home. So, into my bag they go. Well, as I said when I was filming, I think the cups were beautiful. It's a very good price. And because there are two of them, even though that's all, it's just two cups, I believe that they will appeal to a buyer. The chocolate sets were a large pot with a lid, and then 6 or 8 cups and saucers. And in general, now, what we see almost all the time is the chocolate pot and 5 cups and saucers. So at least one, possibly as many as 3 sets of cups and saucers have somehow disappeared from the original set. And this is, it is so common that I am now accustomed to seeing chocolate pot 5 cups and saucers. Those are really nice pieces, though. And as I say, the price was good. I think they will find a buyer. And I'm hoping that someone who will be able to find some sort of use for them, because they're probably not as useful in their original purpose as they would have been at the time. They're very small because chocolate has always been a treat. It was, at one time, it was considered a great luxury because it was expensive. But chocolate was considered medicinal. They would have their little chocolate before they went to bed because that was what you ought to be doing. And because chocolate was so good for you. Like, okay. But it was consumed in small amounts because, as I say, it was a luxury item. So that was the chocolate set. Now, the only other thing we are going to cover from the store on this video, because I don't want to get this, good heavens, do you remember the one last week that ran over 40 minutes? I'm not going to do that to you again. This was one of the pieces that I had seen last week and said, if it's still there, I'm getting it. And another piece that is going to make a wonderful companion piece for a piece I did buy last week. So here you go. So I have 2 pieces here, and both of them are probably going to look familiar from last week. This is the Hull vase, $16, and I've decided I am taking it. Yes, it's going to be difficult to find a buyer because I have to sell it for more than $16. Nevertheless, I think the buyer will come along. The reason this may look familiar is I got another Royal Copley swallow last week. This one is $9, and I have enough confidence in both pieces to say that if I grab this for $9, I am going to be able to sell it. Oh wait, I'm sorry, did I mention that this one came from Paul's stash? That whole vase at $16 is pricey. Now, that's a wonderful retail price, but as a wholesale price, in other words, to put my sales fees, the cost of shipping and so on, it's going to be a reasonably expensive piece, at least with regard to the general price level I keep things at my shop. But it's a really nice piece, beautiful mid-century look, and I think there will be a buyer for it, especially at the holiday times. A lot of people are looking for inexpensive gifts, but not everyone. So I think that piece will probably find a buyer. The Royal Copley bird, on the other hand, and I think it's a swallow. I got another one like that last week. I did a little research, and I think that, I believe that was $9, and that was one of Paul's pieces. I believe that even staying within the general range of what these birds are going for, I shouldn't have any trouble selling it. So that $9 was a good price. And because I have a little friend for it, I'm quite confident it's going to do okay. So I have more things. Those are going to be in a subsequent video because I have a little extra piece of business to deal with today, and that is announcing 3 more winners from our holiday giveaway. And this is C White, C-E-E White, as opposed to the letter C, Wanda Bassett, and Terry Cover. So, C White, Wanda Bassett, Terry Cover, I'm going to send you a note in response to your entry comment. Meantime, if you are watching this video, get back in touch with me and I'll let you know how to send your mailing information to me because you've won. And the 3 previous winners have their giveaway prizes have already been mailed out. Hopefully they will be getting them shortly. They may have gotten them already for all I know. So the giveaway is going well. Karen's repurposed jewelry is always a huge, huge hit. So I am not surprised that everybody is getting in touch the minute their name is announced. These are beautiful pieces. Okay, so have a terrific day, everyone. I will talk to you all tomorrow.